Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hi there. Welcome back to Unbound. I am your host, Beth Curry. All right. So today we're doing something a little different. Another one of these contributed episodes. We're exploring mom through someone else's eyes. Again, my sister Jennifer's, to be specific. Here's what I discovered in this process. The same mother can be an entirely different person depending on which daughter you ask. Not because anyone's lying or misremembering, but because relationships are subjective as hell. The mom Jennifer experienced wasn't always the mom I experienced, even though we grew up in the same house with the same woman. So it's chapter 21 in the book. It's called Firstborn Through Jennifer's Eyes. And it's about taking my sister's memories to my mom and seeing what she remembers, what she doesn't, and what gets revealed in the gaps between their two perspectives. What I found was complicated, beautiful in some moments, painful in others, and always a reminder that every relationship, even between a mother and a daughter, exists in its own unique reality that no one else can fully access. So, it's chapter 1, Firstborn Through Jennifer's Eyes. With a collection of memories from my older sister Jen in hand, I embarked on a new conversation with Mom. I was curious to explore these recollections, to understand Mom's perspective on moments Jen had shared, and to witness how differently her two daughters might have experienced the same mother. I was always closer with Dad than Mom, Jen had written when I asked for her memories, so this will be difficult, but I'll do my best. This admission itself revealed something significant about the distinct relationships Mom had built with each of her daughters, a dynamic I hoped to better understand through Mom's own recollections. To my surprise and delight, Mom was having a remarkably good day when I arrived for our conversation. Her eyes were clear, her attention focused, and there was an unusual steadiness to her presence that I've learned to cherish during these increasingly rare moments of clarity. "I'd like to talk about Jen today," I said as we sat together in the game room, sunlight warming the space between us. "Your daughter, my sister. Jen says you used to sing to her when she was little, rocking her in that antique chair." Without hesitation, Mom began to sing, her voice carrying the familiar melody with unexpected certainty. "Jennifer Dawn, what's that flower you've got on? Could it be a faded rose your mommy got?" The words came effortlessly, flowing from some part of her memory that the disease had not yet touched. For a moment, I glimpsed the mother who had once rocked her firstborn, crafting personalized lullabies in that antique chair that I had forgotten about until Jennifer's reminder. Encouraged by this clear recollection, I continued through Jen's memories, finding Mom surprisingly responsive to many of them. The storm-watching memories particularly resonated with her. "Oh, I love storms. The lightning, the thunder, so powerful," she said with genuine animation. "We watched them together at Coldstream, sitting on the porch with those wicker chairs." "I remember those chairs," I said. Mom and Dad were so happy to have a front porch and really nice chairs for it. "Yes, those white chairs," she nodded. "They'd get wet if the wind blew the rain in." This specific detail, the white wicker chairs, suggested we had accessed a genuine memory rather than another confabulation. Mom's recollection of storm watching with Jen seemed vivid and intact. "Was Jen afraid of the storms?" I asked. Mom considered this question with surprising thoughtfulness. "No, not afraid. Fascinated, like me." Then she added with a touch of her old humor, "You were the one who didn't like the thunder. You'd hide under the blankets." I laughed, recognizing the truth in this observation. I experienced an F4 tornado when I was 9, and that really messed me up. That's right, I was more cautious. "Different girls," Mom said, a simple statement that contained profound insight into her understanding of her daughters, even now. Some memories, however, remained beyond her reach. When I mentioned the creek behind their Quigley Road apartment, the duck toy and Jen's fall that left a scar on her knee, Mom shook her head gently. "I don't remember those," she admitted with a candor that has become more common as her condition has progressed. "But it sounds like something that would have happened." She did also remember the creek name when I started to spell it out for her at her request. When I mentioned the magic dream kitty that Mom had given Jen for her nightmares, a particularly vivid memory emerged. It was gray, Mom said immediately, her voice carrying unexpected certainty. With white paws. My father gave it to me when I was sick with measles. I couldn't go outside for weeks. This detail, the origin of the stuffed cat that had later become Jen's protector against nightmares, was new information for me, a family history neither Jen nor I had known. The cat represented not just Mom's comfort to Jen, but a generational passing of care from my papa to my mother to my sister. I suspect this was another incidence of confabulation. What happened to it? I asked, curious about the cat that Jen had mysteriously disappeared. Mom looked confused by my question. I don't know. Things get lost when you move so many times. When I mentioned Jen waiting at school after her Holland trip, Mom's initial response was defensive. I wouldn't forget her, she insisted, a flash of competent mother she had once been surfacing through the confusion. I was always on time. Jen said you and I got ice cream while she was waiting, I prompted gently. Mom frowned, seeming to search her memory for this incident. Ice cream? She repeated. Then, unexpectedly, Jennifer likes chocolate. You like vanilla. This detail, almost accurate about our childhood preferences, suggested some memory of us as children remained intact, even if the specific incident Jen described had faded. After a moment of silence, Mom added, I might have been late sometimes. There was so much to do with work and church and everything. This acknowledgement, neither a confirmation nor a denial of Jen's specific memory, offered a glimpse into the overwhelming responsibilities Mom had juggled while raising us. What Jen experienced as being forgotten might have been, from Mom's perspective, one of many moments when the demands on her time and attention exceeded her capacity to meet them all perfectly. The choir memories revealed another dimension of Jen's relationship with Mom that differed from my own experience. Jen said you both sang alto in the church choir, I said. Yes, Mom nodded. This memory clearly accessible. Jen has a beautiful voice, low like mine. She demonstrated with a few notes. Not like yours, you're higher. This musical distinction, Jen and Mom as alto as me as soprano, represented a tangible difference in how we connected with her. Jen and Mom literally sang from the same part in their music, their voices blending in harmony during years of church choir performances. My musical connection with Mom came through piano rather than voice, different but equally meaningful. This conversation about singing brought back my own memories of Mom's voice, how it filled our car on long road trips, her singing along enthusiastically to the radio or breaking into spontaneous song. I remembered how Jen, especially during her teenage years, would roll her eyes and plead, Mom, please stop singing. A typical adolescent mortification that makes me smile now. It's funny how differently we remember things as adults. What Jen recalls as a fond memory, I remember her not liking, likely though because her job as a teenager was to be annoyed by her mom. But still, the same voice, the same songs, and entirely different impressions filtered through our distinct relationships with her. Jen says she misses singing with you, I added. Mom's eyes grew distant, perhaps seeing choir rehearsals from decades ago. I miss it too, she said softly. The music. All those voices together. Then, with unexpected clarity, tell Jennifer to keep singing. The music stays with you. This message, so specific to Jen's experience, so profound in its understanding of what would eventually happen to Mom herself, felt like a gift I could carry back to my sister. Even as other memories faded, this musical connection remained vibrant in Mom's mind. I decided to explore some of Jen's other memories, though I'd learned that Mom's recall was unpredictable at best, a crapshoot where even the right prompt might not unlock a memory. Do you remember the trip to Ottawa to meet Prime Minister Jean Chrétien? I asked. Mom looked at me blankly. Jean who? Jean Chrétien, the Prime Minister. You and Jen went to Ottawa and met him. With Dad. I explained, providing more context. I don't think so, she said, shaking her head. I tried another angle. Jen said he told you something about watching French TV. This specific detail seemed to spark something. Oh, Mom said, her expression changing slightly. French TV, yes, someone did say that. But the complete memory remained elusive, the connection to Chrétien still missing. The pattern continued as I mentioned Marv from her workplace. Marv? I don't know any Marv, she said with certainty. He worked with you, I prompted. You were friends. Jen mentioned something about your car and Marv driving it in the parking lot. Mom looked confused. My car? I don't think anyone drove my car. Jen said you left your keys in it, and when you saw Marv driving it, you thought he had gotten a new car that looked just like yours, I explained, hoping the full story might trigger recognition. Mom just shook her head. That doesn't sound right, she said, though she smiled politely as if humoring me. Some memories remained completely inaccessible no matter how I approached them. When I asked her about her 25th anniversary celebration in 1996, the surprise vow renewal, she showed no recognition at all. We had a party for you and Dad, I explained, at a hotel, like a wedding reception. Family and friends came from all over. That sounds nice, she said vaguely, the way she often responds to information that doesn't connect to any existing memory, pleasant but detached, as if I were describing a stranger's experience. This was the reality of our conversations now, a few bright moments of connection amid longer stretches where memories simply couldn't be retrieved. The disease had created a patchwork effect, preserving some memories in vivid detail while completely erasing others with no apparent pattern to what remained accessible. I continued exploring more of Jen's memories, though with diminishing returns. Do you remember taking a girl from Ronald McDonald House to a Backstreet Boys concert in Albany? I asked. Mom looked puzzled, so I added. Jen mentioned a scary bridge you crossed where you both kept your eyes closed. Mom merely shrugged. Similarly, when I mentioned the Thanksgiving weekend drive to Liz Loughton's memorial in Calabogie and how Dad had hit a wild turkey, Mom showed no recognition, except for a small bit of a laugh. I don't remember any turkey, she said flatly. Another doorway to the past, firmly closed, despite my best efforts to find the key. This time, anyway. What do you remember most about Jen? I asked. Mum sat quietly for a long moment, her gaze turned inward as she seemed to search through the fragments of memory still accessible to her. When she finally spoke, her words carried a candor that surprised me. She needed a lot, Mum said slowly. Always did, more attention. Not like you. She paused, her brow furrowing as she seemed to search for words to express a complex dynamic. You just managed. Jennifer struggled more. This assessment, cutting to the heart of differences between her daughters that I had long recognized but rarely heard Mom articulate so directly, revealed patterns I had observed throughout our lives. Where I had learned to adapt and problem solve independently, Jen had developed different patterns of navigating life's challenges. 2 different daughters, 2 different ways of handling life as young girls and women. I didn't press further. The complexities and challenges of maintaining connections amid memory loss felt too difficult to navigate in Mom's current state. Mom was quiet for a minute, but I could tell the wheels were turning. I don't see Jennifer much, she said with unexpected lucidity. She's been busy, I offered gently, the explanation I often give for anyone Mom asks about when I'm unable to speak for them. And it can be difficult to arrange visits sometimes. Mom nodded, seeming to accept this simple explanation, though I wondered if she sensed a broader emotional undercurrent beneath it. Her face was saying something I couldn't get from her. Her awareness of Jen's limited presence revealed that she still retained some grasp of their current relationship. In comparison, Mom likely does see me more than Jen, and perhaps feels that means she doesn't see a lot of Jen. I understand deeply why these visits can be so challenging, though, not just for Jen or myself, but for anyone who loves someone with dementia. Watching a parent or loved one decline in this way exacts an emotional toll that's difficult to describe to those who haven't experienced it. Each visit requires confronting loss anew, navigating the painful gap between who they were and who they've become. The person sitting before you both is and isn't the one you've known all your life. Some days I leave these visits emotionally drained, my heart heavy with grief, even as I'm grateful for the moments of connection we still manage to find. It's not a burden everyone can or should be expected to carry in the same way. We each find our own balance between showing up physically and protecting our mental health, between honoring our relationship with the person they were and accepting the reality of who they are now. I've learned not to judge the different ways people cope with this particular form of grief. Some find comfort in regular visits despite the challenges. Others find it too painful to witness the decline of someone they love. Neither response is wrong. They're just different paths through the same difficult terrain. Taking care of ourselves is not selfishness, but necessity, often when facing a loss that unfolds so gradually with no clear ending in sight. Below are Jen's words, her memories of the mother I've been trying to understand through multiple perspectives. Like Sandy's recollections, they represent one facet of a complex, multidimensional woman whose full self exists now more in the memories of those who love her than in her own increasingly broken recall. Memories of My Mom by Jennifer Truax. My first memories of Mom include me being rocked in an antique rocker while Mom sang to the tune of Delta Dawn, Jennifer Dawn, what's that flower you've got on? Could it be a faded rose your mommy got? I used to get really bad nightmares, and Mom gave me her magic dream kitty, a plush cat she had when she was a child. It never left my side until the day it disappeared. Still no idea what happened to it. I remember waking up to thunderstorms and standing at the window watching until Mom came to join me. We always enjoyed watching storms together. I recall a creek that ran behind our apartment on Quigley Road. I know it now to be the Red Hill Creek. One day, I think I was maybe 3, taking my shovel and pail out to play, and Mom warning me to stay away from the water, which is exactly where I went to play with my shovel and pail. I remember when I was maybe 4 or 5, riding my little duck ride-on and falling over, getting a piece of gravel in my knee. I still have the scar. I remember all the blood running down my leg as Mom cleaned me up. Mom often braided my hair, and I loved it. I learned to braid hair so I could do the same for Kaylee. I remember in high school, I was on a music trip to Holland. Dad cashed in his overtime to help pay for that trip. I left the itinerary for Mom and Dad so they would know when to pick me up from school. I waited for hours with my luggage. Everyone else had long gone by the time Mom showed up to get me. She and Beth went for ice cream without thinking I might have enjoyed ice cream as well after a long flight home. I remember happy times singing in the church choir with Mom. We were altos together. I really miss singing with Mom in the choir. I remember when I was so sick I couldn't keep anything down, and Mom decided I needed to go to the ER to get a shot of something to help. The drive terrified me. She kept veering into oncoming traffic to avoid parked cars, despite there being plenty of room. That was when I told Dad to be aware she might not be a good driver much longer. I loved sitting on the front porch on Coldstream Drive watching storms with her. I remember the drive to Ottawa to meet the Prime Minister. I was so sick with a migraine for the drive home. He told Mom she needed to watch more French TV. I remember driving with Mom to Albany to take a young girl from Ronald McDonald House to see the Backstreet Boys. She hated going over the narrow bridge. I do not recall which one it was. I hated it too and kept my eyes shut for the duration. There were no concrete sides, and we felt like we were going to go over the side. I remember the drive to Calabogie for Liz Loughton's memorial. It was Thanksgiving weekend, and Dad hit a wild turkey on the ride up. I told him the least he could do was honor the poor bird by going back for it. It would be a nice meal for someone. He didn't. I remember when one day at work, Mom left her keys in the car and Marv drove it around the parking lot. Mom commented that Marv must have gotten a new car and it looked just like hers. I remember the party we planned to surprise Mom and Dad for their 25th anniversary in 1996. We had it at a hotel on the lake, and it was like a wedding reception complete with the fancy cake. We invited friends and family from all over North America and surprised our parents with a vow renewal. Jen and I knew the same mother, yet we remember her differently. Her love of storms, music, and storytelling remains in both our minds, but with different shades, different emotions attached. Even now, Mom's responses reflect that duality, sometimes clear, sometimes distant, always undeniably hers. Jen's memories reveal a mother who sang personalized lullabies, shared a love of thunderstorms, braided hair with careful attention, and embarked on ambitious road trips. They also reveal moments of disconnect, like being forgotten at school and experiencing Mom's declining driving abilities with fear. Mom's responses to these memories, sometimes clear, sometimes confused, always authentic in the moment, reveal fragments of her own perception of her relationship with her firstborn daughter. She's like me in some ways, she said, recognizing both the connections and the differences that define their relationship. Through this process of exploring Jen's memories with Mom, I've witnessed both connection and distance. The stories Jen shared offer glimpses of a relationship that was both nurturing and complicated, moments of tender care alongside moments of disconnection. Many of my memories were very similar. What persists now isn't an intact relationship, but echoes of one, fragments that resonate differently for Jen, for Mom, and for me as the observer and collector of these memories. Mom experiences moments of remarkable clarity amid longer stretches of confusion, and I find myself in the middle, trying to understand both perspectives, to hold space for the complexity of their relationship. This, perhaps, is the most challenging lesson in Mom's cognitive decline. That relationships, like memories, can become fragmented, that some connections weaken while others unexpectedly strengthen. Yet even in this fragmentation, something valuable remains. The mother Jen remembers still exists in her memories. The daughter Mom sometimes recognizes still matters in her increasingly simplified emotional landscape. And the stories they share, even when experienced separately, still contribute to the intricate portrait of who Mom was and continues to be. As our conversation wound down, Mom suddenly looked up with unexpected animation. "Jane Christian!" she blurted out. I was slightly amused by what she said, and I knew exactly why, but I wanted to see if she did too. "What?" I asked. "Anne Calling called him Gene Christian," she said with a smirk in her voice. And there she was, sharp, observant, a quiet wit cutting through the fog. Different, changed, but still here. So when I asked Jen for her memories of our mom, one of the things that she said was I was always closer with Dad than Mom, so this will be difficult. And right there, before we get into specific memories, we have the setup for understanding their relationship. Because she remembers being closer to Dad, but I remember her being closer to Mom. And I felt closer to Dad because of that. Like, same family, completely different dynamics, experiences, and memories. Like, it's pretty wild, right? That kind of shapes everything. Like, it colors how we remember childhood and what moments stand out and what felt like love versus what felt like distance. So when I took Jen's memories to my mom, I wasn't just curious about whether Mom would remember these specific incidents. I was curious about what Mom's version of these memories would kind of reveal about the relationship from her side. So the good stuff, because there was some genuinely beautiful connection with this conversation. When I mentioned that Jen remembered Mom singing to her, I'm really, really sorry for like my attempts at recreating that song while I was reading the chapter. Dear God. When I mentioned this, and Mom just started singing, like no hesitation. She just started singing it. This personalized lullaby sung to the tune of Delta Dawn, just so perfectly preserved in her memory. And in that moment, I got to glimpse the mom who created this song for her firstborn, the mom who rocked her baby and made up these little songs. That version of my mom, young and creative and fully present with her infant daughter. She was right there in the room with us. And it reminded me that the emotional memories, the heart memories, the ones that are in the heart, those stick around longer than the ones in the brain, the factual ones. So Mom remembered the feeling again, like the feeling was there, the feeling of rocking her baby and the melody of a song that she sang 52 years ago. Like that's embedded so deep that dementia can't touch it. And I love that. The storm watching memories were another point of clear connection. Mom lit up when I mentioned watching storms with Jen and talking about how much she loved them, and it took her back to those white wicker chairs. Those weren't around. That front porch, my parents had that built later. Like we were all moved out, I think. Yeah, so those chairs weren't there. So like Jen remembered it being at a window, Mom remembered it being on the porch, and maybe, later on in life it happened, but and Mom corrected my assumption as well that Jen wasn't afraid of the storms. She was fascinated just like Mom was. And then she dropped the whole, you were the one who didn't like the thunder, you'd hide, blah, blah, blah. She was right. I did, because I experienced a fucking F4 tornado when I was 9 and camping with a friend and her family, and that traumatized the hell out of me, like forevermore. So not a huge fan of wind, not a huge fan of those dark sky storms. I can find a way to enjoy them, but no thanks. Anyway, so even with dementia, Mom still understood that her daughters were different people. I was the one afraid of things, and Jen loved storms. Different girls, she said, just such a simple, profound insight, simple, profound statement. She recognized that Jen and I needed different things and responded to different experiences and had different relationships with her. That awareness there, that's not gone, and I think that's pretty cool. The memories that didn't land, though, like the creek and the toy and Jen falling, the dream kitty, she said her father gave it to her when she had the measles. I don't know. I think that might have been confabulation. Meeting the prime minister and her blank stare, and Pastor Marv driving her car, nothing, and the anniversary party, nothing. Most of Jen's memories are gone from Mom's accessible recall. Not all of them, not the deepest ones, but the specific incidents, the day-to-day things that kind of made up their relationship are just kind of inaccessible. That's a bummer. Excuse me, but it's happened with some of mine too. So the moment that hit me hardest, though, in this conversation, when I asked what she remembered most about Jennifer, and she said she needed a lot, she always did, more attention, all that kind of stuff. I didn't know what to do with that, because on one level, it's an incredibly perceptive observation about how different Jen and I were as kids and even as adults. I was the one who managed independently. Jen did need more attention. Jen was a lot more like mom when mom was growing up, and I was a lot like my aunt when I was growing up. So I kind of find that interesting too. Um, sorry. On another level, though, hearing my mom articulate that, especially now, when, their relationship is a little more distant, it felt really damn complicated. Like, is this an explanation for why they had a harder time connecting? Like, I don't know. Is this mom recognizing a dynamic that she contributed to? I don't know. Is it just observation without judgment? I don't know. And I can't ask because that level of nuance is kind of beyond where mom is now. But what I do know is that every parent-child relationship has patterns that get set early and persist through life. And those patterns kind of shape everything, like how loved we feel and how seen we feel and how easy or hard it is to maintain connection, right? And, where I need to get real about something is Jen doesn't visit much, and mom noticed. Mom notices this still. I don't see Jennifer much, she says, and I give her generic responses or whatever. The truth is more complicated than just simply saying that someone is busy. Pardon my French, but these visits are fucking hard, and not everyone can or should be expected to show up the same way. I fully understand why Jen doesn't go more often. I really, really, really do. Watching your parent decline like this exacts an emotional toll that's almost impossible to describe. Like, every visit is a confrontation with loss, and every conversation is a reminder of what's been taken, and every moment of confusion is like a knife in the chest, Like I said, some people cope by showing up regularly despite the pain. Others cope by creating a distance to protect their mental health. Neither approach is wrong at all. They're just different strategies for surviving the same unbearable situation. And I've learned slowly and painfully not to judge how other people navigate this, because honestly, some days I don't want to go either. Some days the thought of walking into that building and seeing my mom stare at me without recognition makes me want to get back in the car and drive away. Like, a lot of days, I would rather be shot up the ass with an elephant gun, to be frank. But I go because for whatever reason, I'm wired to keep showing up. That's my coping mechanism. It's not the only valid one. I have mine. Jen has hers. Just like growing up, different, but equally important and 100% valid. So the end of the chapter, the moment that kind of saved the whole conversation from being just sad, when mom blurted out Jane Christian, and I pretended like I knew she was remembering Anne calling. That's Kelly's mom. She's, someone from our past, and apparently Anne, I believe, jokingly mispronounced Jean Christian's name. Jean Christian. I even just said it, Jean Christian's name. My mom remembered that, not the actual meeting with the guy that Jennifer mentioned. That was gone, but this tiny, irrelevant, hilarious detail about someone my mom was close to for so long mispronouncing his name. Perfectly preserved memory. And there she was. It was there. And that's what I mean when I say she's kind of still in there, different and changed, but still fundamentally her. The mom who noticed when things were funny and kind of held on to those absurd details, or, she could deliver a punchline even when she couldn't remember meeting a prime minister. So I think the whole lesson from this exercise of exploring Jennifer's memories with mom is that relationships are subjective, and they remain subjective even when one person has dementia. So Jen remembers a mom who braided her hair and sang these lullabies, but also a mom who forgot to pick her up at school and went for ice cream without her and with me. Both things are true, though. Both things shaped their relationship. I remember a mom who was more present with me, maybe because I needed less, or maybe because our personalities just clicked better. Also true. And mom, she remembers bits and pieces of both relationships, kind of filtered through her own experience of trying to juggle work and church and two very different daughters with very different needs. Um, all of these perspectives are valid. All of them exist at the same time. And the fact that they don't match up perfectly doesn't mean anyone is wrong. It just means that relationships are messy and complicated and experienced differently by everyone involved, right? So here's what I want to leave you with. The people we love are never just one thing. They're different versions of themselves depending on who's doing the remembering. That's what I love so much about this, the submissions that I got. There's a few more coming up in later chapters. Like, I loved hearing other people's stories and perspectives about my mom. Things I didn't know, things I didn't realize, even one that came from my closest friend. Anyway, that's later. So my mom was one person to Jennifer, another person to me, another person to my dad, probably a completely different person to her friends and coworkers and church community. All of those versions were real and all of them were her. But now with dementia, those different versions are kind of fragmenting even further, right? So like some memories are preserved with like this perfect clarity and others are just completely gone. And trying to reconstruct who she was or even who she is now kind of means collecting all these different fragments from all these different perspectives and accepting that the full picture will never be complete. If you're going through this with your person, try what I did. Talk to their other relationships and ask for their memories and then see what gets confirmed and what's contradicted and what gaps fill in that, you didn't even know existed. I think that the more perspectives that you gather, the more dimensional your person becomes, right? So not just the version that you experienced, but all the versions that they were to all these different people. And when you take those memories back to them, like I did with my mom, you might be surprised by what sparks recognition. It might not be the memories you expect. It might not be the big moments, but something will land. And in that moment of recognition, you'll get a glimpse of who they were through someone else's eyes. Yeah, so different daughters, different memories, same mother, experienced in completely opposite ways. And somehow that makes mom more real, not less. Thanks for listening to Unbound. Support and contact info are in the show notes. Please join the Facebook group for discussion, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.